pass it right over to Tyler. Why don't you take it away with our first story on keyword cannibalization?
This was just an interesting story I found about SEO, search engine targeting strategy.
Right.
Just some really cool ideas that I hadn't actually considered before.
Right. This was new to me too. So let's give it a listen. Sounds good.
What is keyword cannibalization? This episode of Today in News Tech is made possible with audio articles by ourhometown.com. Today we're highlighting a piece by Mikulas Prokop over at The Fix about headline writing techniques that can help boost your search engine optimization. The article, How to Think About Keyword Cannibalization on News Websites, discusses the idea of keyword cannibalization and how to use it. Oftentimes, publications write multiple articles that rank for the same keywords, thus undercutting each other's SEO. However, this is not always a problem that needs to be fixed or tackled. Sometimes, on the contrary, it is very desirable, said Prokop. Here are a few of our big takeaways. Keyword cannibalization can be useful. You can use similar keywords to wallpaper Google by providing multiple articles that serve multiple user intents. Wallpapering involves creating content based on similar keywords in different formats and structures, such as video, images, and written articles, so that they all show up from the same general search. Keyword cannibalization will negatively affect evergreen articles that are meant to cover topics broadly and to continuously perform well. Optimizing your search engine results is necessary when writing in a digital environment. Because of this, Our Hometown's WordPress platform comes with built-in SEO tools to ensure that publishers' content has the most impact possible.
So this term, I've actually never heard of it. I thought it was like they kind of set it up in the article. I thought it was going to be negative at first. Break it down for us again, and how this applies to a local newspaper.
Keyword cannibalization is when you're writing multiple articles that are all targeting the same keyword. You could theoretically be undercutting yourself by diluting the search results.
To give a specific example for a local newspaper, it might be some event name or something like that.
An event name, maybe like a high school sports team.
And so the idea is you could use different names to describe that team or the event,
or phrase it differently.
Right, in order to just cover more ground. The thinking being that if someone searches for exactly what I published, then I'll be first.
Right.
That would be the intuitive thing based on what we know about Google, which is very little, really, about how they work. I mean, we have an idea based on what we see. But anyway.
The best example is in the article. They used I think it was like a Russian hockey tournament. But they explained that, especially, like I said, with sports, you're not necessarily cannibalizing yourself by writing the same keyword targets, because yes, you're diluting your results here, but you're also showing up throughout the page.
That's what they mean by wallpapering, right?
Yes. You've got written, video, images, and you're the only source showing up at the top.
I mean, I've seen this with Our Hometown. There's certain terms that you will search for, and we're all over the front page of Google. And I know that is obviously a good thing for us generating traffic. I guess to just step it back a little bit here, I think the whole concept of writing articles for SEO and with keywords in mind might be new to some publishers. They're not necessarily thinking about that, because just writing for print, it never really mattered. I know one thing that I've heard about people at conferences and things talk about is just adapting your headline writing, maybe some of your article writing, the way that you describe things in articles, thinking about how people are going to eventually search for it.
Absolutely.
And find it on your website. Yeah.
And that's another thing that they point out in the article, is to write for user intent. You don't have to write an article wanting it to rank, but when you're writing an article, think about, if you were looking for this article, how would you try to find it?
I mean, the thing I just keep going back to is just basically searching for Salt Lake City local news. I mean, people will do that. That's just one fraction of the searches that could be relevant, that you could be targeting.
Right.
So, I guess look at the categories that you cover, the topics that you cover a lot in your newspaper. You could look at your stats to figure out what's most popular and just basically go through the exercise of identifying these keywords that you want to target. Kind of have it as just like an objective of the newsroom to think about the phrasing of these things in the headlines, because for most publishers, what they write in print is exactly what ends up on the website. Some publishers, I think, are probably doing more like A/B testing and things like that, but that's pretty rare. I think most people just directly translate. So you kind of need to get the print newsroom on board with this whole concept.
And like you said, something as broad as Salt Lake City local news, that would, I would say, be an evergreen search that you don't necessarily want to try and wallpaper with keyword cannibalization.
So walk me through that. I didn't quite follow it. So the evergreen content.
This probably goes a little more in the weeds and kind of comes back to some work I've done in the past. But basically, if you're writing an article about a broad topic that you want to get a lot of hits on, those clicks are going to raise you. The more your article's viewed, the higher it's going to rank. That's going to help with your keyword ranking. And if it's a really broad topic for an article you're only writing once, then you want that to continue to get hits. So you need to laser target your keywords there. If it's for, like you said, an event, a sports game, that kind of thing, that's where you want to go broad so that no matter what, someone is going to find your reporting on that one event. So it's basically like a subject versus an event. Is it a one-time thing or is it a concept that somebody's looking up?
The thing that helps me the most is trying to apply this to our business and our marketing, because I'm the most familiar with that. It would be helpful to kind of think through that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, Vera. With our hometown marketing, we've got our events and then we've got our evergreen content. So just to kind of boil this down, for the evergreen content on, say, paywalls, just like how to monetize your website with a paywall. You're saying that we would want to use very specific terms so that articles only come up with those specific searches.
Right.
Is that the idea? Right. And then the events, we want anyone that's interested in newspapers, interested in CMSs to come to these, because we want them to just know about our hometown. That's the objective there. But it's not so much, read this one article. It's just like, come to our webinar, get to know us, see how we're experts in digital publishing, that kind of thing. Again, to drill it down even more, we wouldn't want to use digital subscriptions and paywalls interchangeably in this case. We would want to stick to paywalls.
And I would also, maybe to simplify it, are you trying to draw people towards an article or are you trying to draw people towards the site?
The site in this case. So that's maybe not a good example.
So if you're just trying to pull people towards the site, then wallpaper, because then your site's going to be everywhere. But if you want that one article to be seen, that's when you've got to be more methodical about your keywords.
Less broad, less trying to catch all the eyes, all the different searches. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, something I never really thought about. Vera, what do you think? Any thoughts on this as an ex-publisher?
I think it's fascinating. I never even heard of this before, but it does make sense. I particularly like the wallpapering, because you have your high school sports. They're big here in Pennsylvania, high school sports everywhere. And to be able to have it wallpapered to where you're reporting those high schools, people are searching for them and it comes up in a search engine like that. That's awesome.
I mean, this is just amazing how this is just some small little feature. It's like almost an artifact of Google, and it's got like this whole term behind it and all this people studying it and reporting on it. It's just amazing. That's some stuff to definitely point out to our publishers. I think the take home here, the most practical take home is just think about how you want people to find your content online. What would you be searching for? Like exactly like you said, put yourself in the user's shoes and imagine how you would wind up to this article. Thanks for watching Today in News Tech, the podcast covering innovation in digital journalism. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast apps. We'll see you tomorrow.
At our hometown, we help newspapers build WordPress websites, design native apps, and develop digital subscription models. If you are interested in a free prototype of your publication on WordPress, go to ourhometown.com and click the Contact Us button.